Welcome everyone to the September 23rd, 2020 meeting of the Camden County Board of Education. I'd like to ask if there's any consideration of open session agenda changes. Seeing none, can we have a motion to approve the agenda? Motion by Ms. Abbott to approve the agenda of September 23rd, 2020 meeting of the Camden County Board of Education. Seconded by Mr. Purcell. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. If everyone could please take a moment of silence, please. Thank you for your consideration. Public comment. Citizens who are residents of Camden County and who signed up to address the board will be called on in sign-up order. Each individual speaker will be allowed 3 minutes for remarks. Issues or concerns involving personal complaints related to identifiable school personnel or student matters are not appropriate for this public forum. After 30 minutes of public hearing, any speakers remaining will be recognized at the end of the agenda. Dr. Farrell, do we have?
Yes, sir.
Ms. Langton.
Good evening, board members, Dr. Farrell, and members of the gallery. My name is Teresa Langton. Tonight I'm here as a community member, a parent, and a first grade teacher at Grandy Primary. I would like to briefly speak with you regarding our return to school. I'm excited to return to school and see my first grade students face to face. A couple of weeks ago, I had the opportunity to visit White Oak Elementary and D.F. Walker Schools in Edenton. It was wonderful to see the staff and the students working face-to-face and remotely. One of the comments made during our visit was that they wished they had gone back at a reduced schedule, a 4-day student week. This visit has sparked many good conversations at Grandy Primary. One of the discussions we have had is returning to a 4-day student week, keeping Wednesday as a remote day. You might wonder why we are so excited to return to school, yet we are asking for a 4-day student week. It's important to remember that we have new demands being placed on us, and we are being asked to fulfill new roles. We want our students to return safely, and that means we will be cleaning surfaces, manipulatives, and other learning tools more than ever. One of the greatest things about Grandy is that we ensure our students have access to a great deal of hands-on learning. We do not want that to stop. Our students deserve a high-quality education with access to the material and manipulatives that we count on to deliver great instruction. However, this means we need time to prepare. Our students have not been in the classroom since March. Kindergarten students, not at all. We realize that the return to the classroom brings many different educational needs among our students. Differentiation will be more important than ever and will require effective, differentiated lessons that are well planned and executed. In order to deliver those lessons, additional prep time is needed to clean and disinfect manipulatives and classroom tools that help our students to learn. Although many of our students will be returning to face-to-face instruction, it is important to remember many families have chosen the 100% remote option. Yet another reason Grandy is a great school is that we count on our teams to collaborate, develop, and deliver excellent content. We strive to better ourselves by learning together. Remote teachers and face-to-face teachers need planning and collaboration time to continue to deliver that great content. If we return to school with a 5-day student week, we no longer have planning and collaboration time with our remote teams. CIS faces a similar yet different situation in that their teachers are both the remote and the face-to-face teacher. Our specials teachers, shared by both Grandy and CIS, will continue with face-to-face and remote instruction as well. High-quality remote instruction takes a great deal of time and planning. Our specials teachers need the additional day to continue with their high-quality instruction. Teachers have provided a great deal of additional points that are important in a 4-day student week. It will allow us time to keep up our important relations and communication with our family, Zoom with remote students for remediation and additional support. We are aware that there will most likely be a case or more of this virus. It is a virus and viruses spread. We all know that. However, restrictions are such that we will find ourselves in situations where our staff or students will be quarantined and we must continue to teach. A 5-day week will make this very difficult for many reasons. There will be student absences, substitutes for staff members, remote teachers having to substitute for face-to-face teachers, and more. My last talking point is that our school calendar is already developed, having marked each Wednesday as a remote day. My personal children are in high school, and they are thrilled to be returning just 1 day a week. Camden County High School and the early college have opted for a 4-day student week with Wednesday as their remote day. Camden Middle School will also return on an AB schedule with Wednesday as a remote day. Keeping Wednesday as a remote day K through 12 would provide some continuity across the school system. If you decide to send our students 5 days a week, we ask you to consider a grace period in order to transition. This grace period would include the rest of the first 9 weeks and possibly into the second 9 weeks due to the current recommendations and requirement guidelines we are being told to follow in order to keep everyone safe. Those guidelines mean, as an educator, we need time to plan best practice instruction that is also socially distant. That is not business as usual. Best practice in primary grades includes hands-on learning, movement, singing, use of manipulatives, and other tools. If we are to revamp our curriculum and instruction, we need time to plan. Thank you for hearing my concerns and taking into consideration what educators are asking.
Thank you. Ms. Black?
All right, normally I watch this online, so this is a little new for me. This is kind of a spur of the moment, but my name is Christy Black. I have one child that is in second grade at Grandy Primary School. I have one that is a freshman, and I have one that graduated in 2019. I graduated from Camden in 2000, and there's no other schools that I would much rather have my kids at than Camden. So 3 minutes, I'm going to try my best. So current orders are K through 5 to attend school full time, and I want to encourage that as well as push for it as hard as I can. While I understand teachers' concerns as well as a parent of a second grader who suffers from ADHD and severe ADHD, who is under treatment from Children's Hospital and has been since the age of 3. The struggle at home with computer-based learning is a real challenge. He thinks that home is for outside play, it's for video games, unlimited snacks, etc. I am a full-time working single mom, so I cannot be at home. Right now, I'm relying on my ninth grader, who is also trying to do her schoolwork as well as her Zooms to make sure that he gets on his Zooms and he's up on time and he's doing what he's supposed to in his Zooms. Just this week alone, I get a message on Class Dojo that my son, Brantley, is been kicked out of the meeting because he left to get a snack. He was playing with his lights in his room. He was not paying attention. He was playing with a phone or whatever it may be. As a full-time working mom, there's nothing that I can do. And I feel sorry for the teachers because I've seen several pictures of kids and their parents have posted of them laying down on the couch and, eyes covered and picking their nose and, whatever. My son needs face-to-face instruction in school with a teacher. Does he behave this way at school? Absolutely not. He knows that when he's at school that his teacher is going to reprimand him if he doesn't sit down in his seat and pay attention. He also knows that there's a principal. He knows Mr. Lazar very well, that will reprimand him and he'll get in trouble if he doesn't do what he's supposed to. My daughter is now struggling because of his struggles and because I'm a single mom trying to work. She is calling me all day long, frustrated, upset, crying. She wants to be in school. She's a tough kid. Not many of y'all know her, but you will. She is a multi-sport athlete as well as 2 travel sports and has always kept up well with her grades. She's always had A honor roll, AB honor roll. Mr. Mazzell knows her very well as far as sports-wise goes, but the grades things now, she is actually struggling. I have seen several posts from several parents of their children who are also struggling. Um, but at this time, I can only speak of my own children. It's not fair for my daughter to get zeros from missing Zooms, which I have worked with the principal at the high school, Miss Davis, to make sure that she's not going to get zeros for Zooms. Some of them have been taken care of, some of them have not. She's getting points taken off for late assignments because some things have to be done within a 60-minute time period. Well, when you have a child who refuses to listen to his 15-year-old sister, it's hard for her to get a quiz done or a test done within those 90 minutes when he wants to go outside and play. If you ride by Upton Road, you'll see my house. I now have a safety net in my driveway so that she can sit on the front porch with her laptop and still let him ride his skateboard or his scooter or whatever it may be. Some of the assignments that she's having to do are projects, and we have limited resources. I don't have a printer. Can I get a printer? Sure. Can you imagine the amount of ink that I would go through on the 4 projects that she has due in the next week and a half? These are the concerns that I have for her when she calls me and she's crying because she wants to be in school. You would think that would be, detrimental to somebody who's coming from 8th grade that's going to high school, that's a scary situation for her, that she's walking into a high school where she knows where nothing is, but she doesn't care. She doesn't care if she has to wear a mask every day. She doesn't care if she has to socially distance from her friends. She wants to be in school. She wants to play her sports. She's at basketball practice right now. And I look at it like there is 25 kids technically allowed to be in a gym, which they're in pods, so there's not 25, but they're sharing basketballs. They're using water fountains. They're playing with the same ball. I'm sure they're sweating and they're dripping sweat. And these are the concerns that I have as a parent, because if we can go to Walmart and shop, if we can go to Busch Gardens with a reservation, why can our kids not be in school? My kids are now behind because of coronavirus. And I know that it's out of our control. It's something that we can't, we didn't do it. It's not our fault. But I feel like right now, the best thing that we can do is try to do everything that we can do to get our kids back in school. If we need one day off, so that the teachers have time to plan and make sure that they can have communication and contact with the parents to make sure that the kids are on the right page, that's fine. Give them 4 days a week. But 4 days a week is much better than 5 days a week sitting at home. And it's not fair to my daughter as well that she's struggling with her grades now. And I feel like Camden has always found a way to make things work. And I don't see why now we can't figure out a way to make this work for all grades, not just K through 5. Because I'm sure there are thousands of people, hundreds of people that are watching this that I've spoke to that know that I came. This was a last minute, hey, 6 o'clock, I'm going to the meeting. And these are the same concerns that are coming from other parents that I see on Facebook, that the parents are saying, my straight A student is now failing. A friend of mine her son has a 12 in carpentry class, because if he was in carpentry class, he would be building stuff, not learning how to build something through a video. He would have a teacher that would be teaching him. My daughter wouldn't have to go back through 15 different PowerPoints just to find an answer to question number 1. So as much as I think it's a great concern for K through 5 to be back in school, it is, because my 2nd grader needs to be back in school. But I also think that we need to look at, again, getting our high school kids back in school as well as middle school kids and 6th and 7th graders, 6th, 7th, and 8th grade, because one day to me is not enough for my children. So that is all. Thank you.
Ms. Penwell?
Ms. Langton summed up very well the thoughts of several of the teachers at Grandy. I will not by any means speak for every teacher that's at Grandy, but something that I do come as a parent as well is knowing that the teachers at CIS are going to be pulling double duty with a limited planning period. Our planning periods at the elementary level are less than an hour. I want what my son is getting to be comparable to what this students are getting that are at home, that's not possible in less than an hour's worth of planning every day. Um, the products that teachers are putting forth right now take hours of time to create. It's not something that we can pull from a file cabinet and give a student. Um, Having that Wednesday buffer, I know it may sound like we're trying to be lazy or get a day off, but that's truly not it. The Wednesdays that we spend planning with our team meetings can last an hour and a half to 2 hours trying to create content that gives our students what they need. Um, we know that we've seen Governor Cooper, and I'm not throwing politics into this, I'm saying Governor Cooper within 24 hours can completely change the face of what education looks like. We saw that in March. We went to school on a Friday. We never came back. We didn't know on Friday that we wouldn't be coming back. We watch a press conference on Thursday and he says, okay, everybody go back, K-5. And so the terrain changes very quickly for educators right now. A fear is that we do go back to Plan B, and then we have students in our rooms now. Is that 5 days a week? Are we on a previous calendar that are we going to be getting a new calendar? And when is the content going to be created? If I have to be out because I'm quarantined, or if half my class has to be quarantined because we are in much tighter quarters now than we were on an AB rotation. And so I don't want it to come across that we're trying not to work. That's absolutely not the case. I have seen my coworkers work harder and change education drastically over the past 7 months that we've been doing this, but it takes time. 10 and 12-hour days, I know lots of people work that, but I'm also a mom at the end of the day too, and I'm a wife at the end of the day too. And I have a 5th grader who I'm trying to teach his stuff at the end of the day as well. So I ask that you can please consider absolutely bringing our K-5 students back. I have not talked to one teacher who says, I don't want my kids face to face. I haven't heard it. Maybe you've received emails, I don't know, but I have not heard that from my coworkers. We want our kids back, but it's going to take time because it's not business as usual. It's not going to look the same as what it did in March when we left. It's not going to look the same as Plan B that we've been spending the past several weeks planning for. Thank you.
Thank you. That concludes our public comment session. If everyone will please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Information updates, item A, bond referendum for new high school, Superintendent Farrell.
So I know that the hot topic tonight is Plan A, but I wanted to give you all a quick update on where we are with the bond referendum for the new high school. The bond team, and you all are aware of who those folks are, they have met and they will be meeting again soon. During that meeting, they did some preliminary planning for the bond campaign. The sign that reads something to the effect of future home of the Bruins will be going up this week at the property. My understanding is that the Facebook page went live today. There are some renderings of a couple of the things that were shared with you all by Ashley Dennis with Mosley Architects at the last meeting. Those are ready for pickup, and so I'm going to pick those up tomorrow. Those will be used for my community meetings where I give factual information to the community about the bond referendum. Yard signs you will start to see soon, and we are in the process. I was waiting to find out when the posters would be ready before I started setting dates for the community meetings. But I'm going to go ahead and set those and ask you all. I'll send you an email to remind you, but if you can think of specific places where you think we should have some of those meetings, let me know, or specific groups, I'll ask you for that information. But Just wanted to let you know that aside from the transition to Plan B or the transition to Plan A, we're also still working on this bond campaign. So just as some information for you.
Thank you. Action agenda, transition to Plan A update. Superintendent Farrell.
So as a reminder to you, the board decided to return students to in-person learning under Plan B as follows: Grandy Primary School and Camden Intermediate School on October 12th, Camden Middle School and Camden Early College on October 19th, and Camden High School on October 26th. While planning for that transition, as one of the speakers said tonight, Governor Cooper announced that all K-5 students could return to in-person learning under Plan A. So of course, our focus shifted to Plan A from Plan B. We are still sticking to those dates as far as our planning is concerned. As a reminder, Plan A allows schools to bring students back with minimal social distancing rather than moderate social distancing, which is defined as the 6 feet or greater. Plan A still requires social distancing, however. It still requires face coverings, temperature checks, and other screenings. It also requires the isolation rooms and a number of other items that our staff has been working diligently to get in place for those October dates for opening under Plan B. It is not a return to school as we were prior to COVID, and I think that everyone's aware of that, but I thought it was just important to state that, in this meeting. So as I said, our focus then shifted to preparing for a return for K-5 students on Plan A rather than Plan B for Grandy Primary School and CIS. One important consideration that we have to take into account is that Camden Intermediate School is a grade 4, 5, and 6 school, and the Plan A only applies to kindergarten through 5th grade. And so grade 6 would not be allowed to return on Plan A at this time. So what I'd like to do is share with you all and others who are listening. And I apologize that this will take a little bit of time, but I think it's important to share this as we move forward. So Grandy Primary School, my recommendation would be that Grandy Primary School return on October 12th on Plan A. Any student currently on 100% remote learning by choice would be allowed to move to Plan A at any time if requested. Any student enrolling from another school district, homeschool, charter school, or private school will be allowed to do so at any time as long as they meet the criteria for enrollment in our school district, and would be placed on Plan A unless they choose 100% remote, because that would still be an option for them. Transportation and other things needed for the opening of school would be ready by October 12th. CIS would return on October 12th on Plan A for 4th and 5th grade students. Any 4th or 5th grade student currently on 100% remote by choice would be allowed to move to Plan A at any time if requested. Any student enrolling from another school district, homeschool, charter school, or private school would be allowed to do so at any time as long as they meet the criteria for enrollment in our school district, and will be placed on Plan A unless they choose 100% remote. And again, transportation and the other necessary items would be ready by October 12th. CIS would return on October 12th for 6th grade on Plan B. I have spent time with Ms. Robinson, the principal at Camden Intermediate School, and given the number of students enrolled in our 6th grade classes and the number of students currently on 100% remote by choice, we are able to get all Plan B 6th grade students in classrooms at the same time and maintain the social distancing requirements. We are not able to do that on buses, however. Therefore, we would have sixth grade students riding buses with Camden Middle School students rather than Grandy Primary students as they would have in the past. Any student currently on 100% remote by choice for sixth grade will be placed on a waiting list to move to Plan B if requested due to space and social distancing issues. We will need to confirm that there is an available seat on the bus and in the classroom before we can allow the transition. Any student enrolling from another school district, homeschool, charter school, or private school would be allowed to do so on 100% remote learning as long as they meet the criteria for enrollment. If requested, these students will be placed on the waiting list to transition to Plan B due to space and social distancing issues. And for that, for sixth grade, transportation and the other necessary items would also be ready by October 12th. Camden Middle School would return on October 19th on Plan B. Group A students will attend for in-person instruction on Mondays and Tuesdays, and Group B students would attend for in-person instruction on Thursdays and Fridays. Wednesdays would be remote learning days for all Camden Middle School students. Any student currently on 100% remote by choice would be placed on a waiting list to move to Plan B if requested due to space and social distancing issues. We will need to confirm that there is an available seat on the bus and in the classroom before we could allow the transition. Any student enrolling from another school district, homeschool, charter school, or private school would be allowed to do so on 100% remote as long as they meet the criteria for enrollment. If requested, these students would be placed on the waiting list to transition to Plan B due to space and social distancing issues. And again, transportation and other items would be ready by October 19th. Camden Early College High School would return on October 19th on a hybrid Plan B. Group A students would attend in-person instruction on Mondays, and Group B students will attend for in-person instruction on Wednesdays. All Camden Early College High School students would be remote learning on Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Fridays. Any student currently on 100% remote by choice would be placed on a waiting list to move to Plan B if requested due to space and social distancing issues. We will need to confirm that there is an available seat on the bus and in the classroom before we could allow the transition. Any student enrolling from another school district, homeschool, charter school, or private school would be allowed to do so on 100% remote as long as they meet the criteria for enrollment. If requested, these students will be placed on the waiting list to transition to Plan B due to space and social distancing issues, and transportation and the other items would be ready to receive students by October 19th. Camden County High School would return on October 26th on a hybrid Plan B. Group A students will return for in-person instruction on Tuesdays, and Group B students will attend for in-person instruction on Thursdays. All Camden County High School students will be remote learning on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. Any student currently on 100% remote by choice will be placed on a waiting list to move to Plan B if requested due to space and social distancing issues. We would need to confirm that there is an available seat on the bus and in the classroom before we can allow the transition. Any student enrolling from another school district, homeschool, charter school, or private school would be allowed to do so on 100% remote as long as they meet the criteria for enrollment. If requested, these students will be placed on the waiting list to transition to Plan B, and transportation and other items would be ready to receive students on October 26th. A few things for you to keep in mind is that we will have to stick very firmly to our plans for the waiting list in schools and grade levels that are on Plan B. Another thing is that at this time, I do not think that we should open our daycare program just yet. I think we should get school started first and then consider that. And of course, you all already know this, but I will say this one more time, that there is no perfect plan. But what I have described above, I think, is huge progress compared to where we are right now. So The final thing that I would say is I spent a lot of time last night and today and over the last few days talking to people and really weighing out the pros and cons of whether we should come back to school K-5 4 days or 5 days a week. And I'll be very honest and tell you that I sat on the fence with this for a really long time because I feel like I do a decent job of seeing all sides of things, and I try to do that. I won't tell you that I always perfect it, but because I, of course, have my own feelings and opinions about things, but I really was on the fence with this. And so I started making a list of pros and cons, um, and finally just decided in a conversation with someone that I trust to give me good advice that sometimes I think it's important to just speak from your heart and not list pros and cons. And so I will not be able necessarily to say it as well as Ms. Langton has said it tonight, because as a teacher and a parent herself, she's living this every single day. Same with Ms. Black, who is a parent and a full-time working single mother who needs to get her children back in school so that she can work and so their children can go to school and learn. And Ms. Penwell, who also is a teacher and a parent. So I really appreciate you all coming and sharing your thoughts about that. Um, I've spent 25 or 26 years in this business, and 14 of those years I spent as a school principal. And one of the things that I can say with absolute certainty is that Camden County has collectively the best group of teachers I've personally ever worked with. And so I've watched them work really hard over these last weeks and months. Um, and I know that they will continue to do that when whatever we decide or you all decide here tonight, whether it's 4 days or 5. But I'm thankful that kids are going to be able to come back to school, because I too have visited the schools in other counties recently, um, because they had already started school and I wanted to see what was happening there. And it was really a beautiful thing to see kindergartners coming into a building with their little masks on, and some of them had all kinds of fun things on it. One even had a pig snout. I thought it was great. So it's great to see kids coming back to school. Um, and I'm also thankful for all of our staff who has been working really, really hard at getting us ready for whichever plan we were working toward. And honestly, sorry about this, Britton and Larry and all the principals that are in the room, but at the top of that list, I'm thankful for our teachers, because they're the ones making it happen every day with our kids. And I have said to you all when I interviewed for this job, and I've said it to people in this district, teachers have the most important job in a school district. Now, I think principals have the hardest, but teachers have the most important. And so when I hear teachers and listen to them and they say things to me like, I want to provide high quality instruction for my students, both remotely and in person, and I listen to all of the other things that they've had to say, folks, I trust the voice of teachers. And so I got down off the fence today on the side of recommending to you all that we start back K-5 instruction 4 days a week and keep Wednesdays as remote. For now, I don't think that we should do that long term, but I think that for now, I think it's best for teachers, but ultimately, I think it's best for kids, because I firmly believe that what we do to support teachers will transfer into that classroom and make a difference for children. And that's why we do this. So that's where I am.
With that recommendation, quick question on K-5 doing Wednesday as remote day, and just kind of thinking of the comments that we've heard this evening. And the high school is gonna be on collectively on a Friday remote day.
And the middle school collectively on Wednesday. Yes.
So I guess my point is some of your high school students are gonna be in school on Wednesday.
Yes.
Any specific reasoning to not have Wednesday as 100% remote for every school in the county?
High school is still Wednesday remote day.
Yeah, I see
Early
that.
college.
Early college is,
Yeah. But not high school.
In
not
session.
collective with Fridays, we're all.
The early college would be.
right, the early college is not, they're in class on Wednesday,
Yes.
face to face.
So the high school still has a remote day
Right.
on Wednesday.
Let's see what you're getting. We'd have to run the buses just for that.
You had to run the buses, you don't have
Yeah.
high school students at the
Right.
early college that could be home helping their younger
So
siblings.
that's bigger than even running the buses, I think, is to.
You got
as Black's
no
point
child
is,
nutrition.
If that's the day that her daughter or high schooler is in school, there is nobody, it could end up being a bigger
Yes, yeah.
burden.
Her daughter would be there to help with her son. Yes.
If they're not, lined up across the district. We could be creating one problem, fixing one, but creating a whole nother one, for the parents. Do we know how many have opted? I'm sure we've had some when the government order came out to ask to come back already, that we're out on Plan C by choice. Do we have numbers on how many are still wishing to remain for K-5?
Yes. So right now we have 26, are you asking to remain on Plan C?
Correct.
Okay. 26 kindergartners, 32 first graders, 43 second graders, 31 third graders, 28 fourth graders, 28 fifth graders, and 26 sixth graders.
Can you run through that one more time?
Yes. Kindergarten is 26, first grade is 32, second grade is 43, third grade is 31, fourth grade is 28, fifth grade is 28, and sixth grade is 26.
Which grades have the class size cap for remote?
K3.
K3. So three of those grades would have to have.
Remote?
Yeah, for remote.
Well, K3 is the class size law, if that's what you're talking
I thought it was a remote cap too for class.
about. So it is higher we are allowed to go higher than the current K3 class size law.
Right, but it's like still 30 though, right? You had some of those were over 30. Is that
In
what
remote. Yes, some of them were over 30.
So they would have to have two teachers in remote in some of those grades, I guess.
Well, I'm not sure that we want any one kindergarten teacher teaching 26 students remotely. I think there's some kindergarten teachers in the room going, no. So,
So just about every grade in Granny would have to have two remote teachers, I guess. This looks like
yes.
by those numbers.
Mhm.
Almost, yeah. So the discussion we had a couple, 3 months ago, as we were getting ready to roll into plan whatever we were at that point, about having a dedicated online teacher is not feasible. Because there was questions in the beginning about teachers having to plan for both online and in person. And I thought we were told that they were gonna have basically there would be some people dedicated to just online so that we didn't have that workload on the teachers. Is that no longer feasible, or it just didn't pan out the way it was expected to and it can't work, or?
No, some of that can still work. We are not sure exactly where the numbers will land with K3 because we are waiting to see how many of those will return on Plan A now that we're going to Plan A.
That's true. Some of those remote numbers may decrease if they decide to transition in.
Some of the remote numbers could decrease, yes.
This would help at least. We'd have to have as many remote teachers, dedicated remote.
So the numbers you just gave us are
those are the ones who have still chosen the state plan C, even though we're going back to A.
As of right now, those students are still on plan C. And that is a moving target. That changes after our last meeting, for example, we had parents call the next morning, the school and the central office, requesting to move from one plan to the other.
And at 4 days a week, the remote day, be it Wednesday, Friday, we have to come up with something different, would be all asynchronous? Is that the? It would be both. There would be.
Primarily asynchronous.
Trying to get it. I know we had the principals in the room the other night. We're trying to make sure they got it straight. I'm
Yeah, that's pretty good. It took me a while to get
Okay.
synchronous and asynchronous.
So it would be mainly pre-delivered or self-study type work. They could still do one-on-ones or small Zooms or something for kids having problems, but the goal is it would mainly be a remote day so that the teachers have that time for planning
And also if, for example, Ms. Langton ended up teaching in-person and remote students for whatever reason, it would also give her a day dedicated to, yes, planning and those kinds of things, but also a time to be able to reach out individually to those students who are 100%
They would
remote.
still be doing like the small groups or the individuals for the ones they need to, but it's mainly going to be.
Mainly that, and then we would leave it up to the teachers whether or not they needed to work more or less with the students who are 100% remote that day.
I just want to make sure the parents have an understanding of what we're getting. They're not expecting it to be like it is now on Monday, Tuesday, and Thursday, and Friday, where they've got a Zoom at 8:30, 9:30, 10,
Oh, yeah, yes, I see what you're saying.
How long would you expect this to have to go on? Not barring any future changes in plan 2.5, 6, 7, 8, whatever we're going to. If we stay this way, say through the entire first semester.
Yeah, I would not feel comfortable making a recommendation to go beyond the second 9 weeks grading period, which is the end of the first semester, just because of the because of the unknowns.
You would think you need to go to the 4 days through the entire second 9 weeks.
So my initial thinking is that, but I'm also absolutely open to listening to our teachers and getting input from them. And if they say halfway through the 9 weeks, I think we're ready to bring them back, then I'd be happy to make that recommendation to the board. So sort of put it out for now to the end of the second 9 weeks grading period, first semester, whichever way you want to say it. And then typically no one's going to be upset if we offer them more. So.
So we already have established dedicated teachers K through 3.
Established.
Do we already have a plan in place for dedicated teachers for virtual K through 3?
But when the numbers change, we have 26 in kindergarten, and then January, we only have 10 that will be year long, so that number will change. So then you start looking at possibly combination classes, where you may have one teacher that, based on the numbers, if they're low, teaching first, second, and third grade. So we don't necessarily want to do that. So, which may have to happen, otherwise you're gonna have one teacher teaching 3 kids in kindergarten, which means for Ms. Hassel, her numbers are up to 21. I mean, a lot of things change because of the numbers. So technically, your question is yes, but it gets complicated once the numbers gets moved around. Because I think the regular classroom teachers may have to do some of that remote. There's a strong possibility that the numbers continue to go up.
We're trying to get through the first phase of this right now, but do we have a rough date of when we may want to send out the second semester? Do you still want to stay remote? We know the ones that have signed up for all year, but that's something we probably don't want to push. I know it's only September, but honestly, that would help zero in your
It's
numbers.
on draft bill right now. You make the decision we want to know. And with the folks that were considering waiting until January, we'd love to have them come in. It may mean move in a teacher from students from remote into Ms. Langton's class, or someone that wants to switch from Langton to remote, and have a very honest numbers up till January, more consistent. And then hopefully in January, you're looking at smaller numbers that just kind of place out.
I think most parents don't want to commit yet. They want
No,
to
I
wait
didn't
and
say
see.
that tonight. We probably need 4 or 5 weeks of this new.
I don't think you're going to get a true survey to probably December of whether they're going to want to come back in January. I mean, the ones that are already committed for the year are willing to commit, but I think most parents are probably wait and see what's going to happen before they commit their kid to a whole another semester of remote learning.
So can we just commit to 4 days a week from now until the end of October? And when we have our board meeting, it's on the 15th,
Yes, sir.
revisit this then? Or is that
See how things are going or something,
at least a 4 day?
even possible.
Or give us 2 weeks.
Well, our board meeting's on the 15th,
Sorry.
and we'd start on the 12th.
You have a month of
They
data.
give us 3 days of data. They're not coming back till the 12th.
We're coming back on October 12th, and we meet on October 15th.
Oh, I was thinking November 15th. Okay, yeah, that's not.
Well, we have a November meeting as well, obviously.
Yeah, we probably need to talk about it in the November meeting, I guess. It's already so close to December. I don't know.
So we're allowing. Run through it again. Now, who's allowed to come back under plan? Any transfers, any incoming students will be under plan A. We're not going to require
K-5.
K through 5.
If a student enrolls in our district, whether it's a student who was here before and they come back because we've opened, if they left to go to a school that was open and they come back, then if it's a K-5 student and they want to be on Plan A, we would put them on Plan A. If they request 100% remote, right now the governor's order is that we should offer that to all students, all remote. If they choose that, yes. No matter what grade they're in.
This time, it's not the ones actually coming back in the classroom or so much of the issue as it is the whole remote. At this point, it's flipped completely from where we were. Because we've got with the minimal social distancing, we're still finding the classrooms of Seton with the K3 size law. So if we have more coming back remote, they could end up changing what he needs to do because he's.
Why don't we have a cutoff for going from plan C to plan A? For any,
Well, we can't have a cutoff for a student enrolling because we have to enroll a student anytime they come in and qualify for
we
enrollment.
could enroll them under plan C.
We could, but if we're on Plan A,
Yeah, on Plan A, you just
that
need.
allows them in the classroom if they want to.
Yeah.
It's Plan B where that gets tricky.
I'm just trying to think of a cutoff for.
Try to lock down
Yeah.
A. It makes it easier because then you can say this teacher's a remote teacher and will always have 26
Oh, I
students,
see what you're
at least
saying.
for this
Okay.
semester. I see what he's trying to get at.
Yeah, I see.
That's tough to do.
There's no-
It's tough to do when you can do A, because technically you can bring them back in school. If the parent had to change their work schedule or whatever, they might need to transition from C to A. Yes, it's hard to lock down. Only there's no perfect scenario because you just, there's so many
That's what I
unknowns.
said, there's no perfect plan.
They need to give us some time.
What was that?
What'd you say?
So do we want to maybe plan for that second meeting we always have as a possibility in October to give us at least a couple of weeks?
When's the November meeting?
Wait, just till the
15th.
November meeting.
12.
The 12th?
The 12th.
How many weeks would that be?
Give it- Yeah, I was saying, if he wanted to go to the end of October, that's only other thing we could do is go to the 29th for our second meeting. Well, yeah, we moved the first meeting.
I mean, even if we met November 12th, then we decided to try 5, we'd have to give them time to do that. Might be a week or two, then you're in December, and then it's like the Christmas break's right around the corner, so what's the point of that? Almost at that, just ride out the semester. But,
I
It's
think
kinda-
it's worth talking about.
yeah,
in-
oh, yes, it's worth
in
talking
November.
about, but it's, I don't know how much it'll help, but at least with the parent situation, I think that's the most critical.
What do you guys think?
I think November, revisiting in November is much better than October. You revisit in October, we've had 2 weeks. That's not enough to really know whether it's working or not. I think if you decide in November, that we're ready to go back to 5 days, we're just ready. There's not gonna be,
You would need a week to get ready or anything.
they're already in school at that point.
Okay. We'd have to notify the parents, but I guess we could start that, if it was the consensus of the board, they could start the next week.
Well,
So we meet on
by
Tuesday.
the time you're at November 12th, it's an after Thanksgiving start.
It would have been,
Realistically,
Okay.
is what that is.
I mean, yeah, I think that's,
Why don't we just evaluate? Won't hurt to talk about it at our mid-October meeting.
Oh, absolutely. Give an update, sure. Yes.
yeah, we can talk about it, but
One-
It's only been 3 days in
if we
school.
decide on November 12th that we want to go back to 5 days, the teachers are, everything's clicked and it's gelled and where we're at, we wouldn't need to push back to the end of Thanksgiving is what they're saying, is we would, it would be a simple transition at that point to go from 4 to 5 because you've had a month or so to get everything.
she also said that we only have 2 weeks of data.
No, so if we met on November 12th and decided that night, we could theoretically.
But that's
push back as
November,
of
yeah.
Monday
He was
morning.
saying October. He just said-
What I was looking at is that the week of Thanksgiving?
We don't know. The governor's gonna say in 2 weeks.
He can change the game tomorrow.
Yeah,
That's what he
So I
can.
mean, I don't wanna get locked in too much, cause it might change in a week or two.
Yes. That, I'm with you, that's what I'm.
Hey, when's the election? The 3rd? Maybe we need to meet the day after the election.
Of November, not October.
Yeah. I don't know.
Because if we went through to November 12th, 13th would be Friday, 14th, 15th, we could go back on the 16th, full bore 5 days a week. They should be ready to go at that point. We wouldn't have to push it off another 2 or 3 weeks. We could roll pretty quick. I'm with you. I don't want to lock in for 2 months longer, but a week isn't going to tell us anything.
That's what I'm saying, I mean. We may discuss this in October and say, okay, let's just go ahead and do 4 days a week for the rest of the year, rest of the semester. But if the governor were to change his orders between now and our October board meeting, and we're gonna have another special meeting, or we can just talk about it then?
Well, in the event that the governor makes any changes or there's any significant changes like that, then we can call a special meeting to have that discussion and make decisions and reroute where we're going. As long as it's in a positive manner.
From a K-5 standpoint, we've already got 100% to go 5 days. I mean, there's really nothing other than restricting this again. There's nothing else he can announce for K-5 that's going to be any more lenient than what we have, unless he just says, drop everything, go back to like we were back in March 1st. It ain't gonna happen.
So we just say we're not gonna lock ourselves into 4 days a week for an indeterminate amount of time, and we'll just follow the superintendent's recommendations and change it when it needs to. That's simple enough, right?
Because again, I don't think any parent is going to be upset with us for giving them more days of education for their children.
Not give- So 4 days a week until the superintendent recommends otherwise?
That's K-6. 4 days a week, K-6, until you.
Yes, but K-5 would be on Plan A and sixth grade would be on Plan B.
But they'd be able to come 4 days a week.
Because of our numbers, we can get them in there the same number of days as the fourth and fifth graders at that school. But we will, I feel like I say this over and over and over again, but I'll say it one more time. But we have to stick to the guidelines for the waiting list
Waiting
at
list,
sixth grade.
Because of social distancing.
Yes, because we still have to meet Plan B guidelines.
I'm sure everybody's preparing, but I mean, should the governor say 7th and 8th or 6 through 8 or 6 through 12, hey, y'all can go back next week. We need to have our stuff in gear so that, that can happen.
Yes. And realistically, once we get to those October dates, the 12th, the 19th, and the 26th, it's kind of like Ms. Langton was saying, then you're just adding they're already rolling and it's just adding one more day. The same thing would be true at the middle school. They would just be adding one more day. And then I guess the high school, they'd be adding the rest of the week, right? Since they're doing one day right now.
Discussion had on whoever brought up last meeting about early college staying 100% remote, so it gets to high school the extra day. Any feedback that came back from Ms. Davis?
So I talked with Ms. Davis and Ms. Stevens, and you all are welcome to chime in. I think one of the concerns, they see that as a valid question. I think that what their concern at this point is making one more change when they have not been moved to Plan A. One more change with parents and teachers. And Ms. Davis and Ms. Stevens, you're welcome to add anything you need to add.
Okay, what he said, no, I mean, yeah, it is another change, we're looking at numbers, I am using every available space here, so, it comes down to that spacing issue with that. I know on my days, all I can say is the days I have kids in school, like, every crevice is gonna be used with kids, so that's just where I am with it, we've got all the kids and teachers, my teachers and my students are gonna have to change classrooms to make this work. So everybody's gonna be changing all day because it's the only way we can fit, because it's whoever has the biggest class gets the biggest space. It's kind of, what we're doing with that. And so, we're working on that. We did have a little bit of a jump with remote learning numbers, but we're still about 115, and then we've only had 5 requests to move back to Plan B as of noon today. So I'm sure it's changed since then, but as of noon today, that's where we are. So, we have that. And like I said, that spike in the remote learning was what allowed us to get in here. And I have, spreadsheets if you want to see like how it's broken down for each room and things like that. I'm happy to share with you guys if you want to see it.
The other thing that we talked about was the importance of continuously monitoring, because we realized that one day of in-person instruction is better than what we have now, but certainly not where we want to be. And then making adjustments after we get students back in school and we realize we can do this, or we need this space, or don't need that space, or more students move to Plan C, or whatever the case may be, just continuously monitoring that and bringing back to the board any recommendations for increasing the number of days for all of our grade levels realistically.
Because I think a lot of those early college kids are looking forward to their 1 day a week too. I know, they need that social interaction also.
Now, it was brought up last meeting, just make sure we run every possibility to the ground that, this is the best way forward.
We have run a lot of possibilities to the ground, yes, sir.
Did the early college see an increase in remote also? You did?
45, but I still have about 10 more that I'm waiting on. But I still, with our COA numbers, our COA students, and some that are part early college and part COA, I'm over on those numbers, as if they show up, I have to have a place to put them, which means I'm gonna have to use the cafeteria over here for my overflow. At
I was
this
hoping
point.
they'd increase some for you, that help get the kids that need to get in here or want to get in here. maybe those other 10, some of them will decide that if it's working for them.
I'm gonna circle back to your recommendation on the, having Wednesday as a remote day for the early college, so that we're consistent on a remote day across the district. Any more thoughts on that?
Okay, will you say that one more time?
So right now you have it as the early college under Plan B. They will actually be in person on Wednesdays,
Right,
when you would have
so that's the only
basically
school.
K through 8 remote on Wednesdays.
May I phone a friend out in
Yeah.
the audience?
One who's very familiar with Camden Early College.
Because we're sharing space over here, we took Monday and Wednesday, and the high school took Tuesday and Thursday, because we still need to use some of our space.
Yeah, well, why couldn't you use Monday and Friday? It would still have Wednesday as 100% remote day for the district.
We can,
How hard would that be to switch that?
Does it work with your programs too, so that, you know, if you had like, you needed the shop class on Tuesday, and that was something y'all had worked out, I mean, is that, can y'all
Yeah,
switch to Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, and split it however you want to, or?
I mean, the only days that it doesn't work are the days if both campuses were here. But as far as it not being, then it doesn't.
So there's no
For me.
program impact on which 4 days it is, you just need 4 days that it's half-half and half-half.
So we're talking leave Camden High School A group on Tuesdays and B group on Thursdays. And then having Camden Early College on Mondays and Fridays. And that way, everything shuts down on Wednesdays. Everything is a remote learning day on Wednesdays. Is there a thought from transportation? Sorry to put you on the.
All good.
Good.
If the people who just spoke in this audience are okay with it, I'm okay with it.
I'll make a motion to accept the superintendent's recommendation with the modifications, right?
All right. See if I get this right here, Dr. Farrell. So
Good luck.
Ms. Eilert has made a motion that we take the superintendent's recommendation for K through 5, Plan A, 4 days per week with Wednesday as a remote day. Grade 6 will be on Plan B, Group A, Group B. Grade 7, 8 will be Plan B. Group A on Monday, Tuesday, Group B on Thursday, Friday, remote on Wednesday. Camden Early College High School will be on Plan B, Group A on Monday, Group B on Friday, remote Tuesday, Thursday, Wednesday. Camden County High School will be on Plan B, Group A on Tuesday, Group B on Thursday, and it will be remote Monday, Wednesday, and Friday.
I think that's right. Do you mind repeating the
I
part
can.
you said about 6th grade at CIS?
6th grade will be on Plan B.
Right?
No, they're not on an A-B day.
No,
They're Plan B.
they're on Plan B.
Social distance.
Mhm.
Social media.
That's right.
All right.
Good job, Christian.
Is that the motion you make?
Yeah.
Second.
Motion is seconded by Mr. Purcell. Is there any further discussion?
There's a question in the audience. May I get clarification on that? Are you talking about the start dates?
They're all staying the same as they were.
The
correct?
12th, the 19th, and the 26th?
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
Start dates will remain the same. All in favor say aye. Opposed? Motion carries. All right. Action item B, 2020-2021 school year calendars revisions. Superintendent Farrell.
So it's interesting that we would talk about this, given the motion that you all just made and passed, but our calendars have gotten a little bit confusing to people. And so right now, what we have is every Wednesday for the entire 2021 school year designated as a remote learning day. What has started to happen is we have started to cross over calendars with Plan A, B, and C, and it's just getting to be really confusing. And at some point, we're going to have at least one more change, right? And so what I would request is that we remove those days on the calendar so as not to create confusion, but knowing that what you just approved as the plan, Wednesdays will still be remote learning days, but we don't know when that's going to change. And so I've never brought calendars to you so many times in one year. And so what you would see on the calendar, if you look at it as it currently is you would see all Wednesdays marked in yellow as remote learning days. So we would go ahead and remove those on the calendar, but they would still be there on the plan that we're on right now. And then in the bottom corner, there are early release days in the spring on January 20th, 27th, February 17th, and March 24th. We had put all of those on Wednesdays because we were already going to be on remote. So those would go back on the calendar marked in red. And so that's a revision that you all would need to. It doesn't actually change any of the dates, just changes the markings and the designations.
It just puts the calendar back to its normal, simple look.
Yes.
That everybody's used to.
Yes. And we should not have to change it again. Because certainly we will not have any winter weather this year, right?
I'm glad you said sure.
Don't jinx yourself.
We already did.
We don't deserve that after all this.
Knock on wood, man.
And yes, that is one of the few positive things that has come out of this crisis, is that we have learned that we can remote learn and not necessarily always close school down. So that's a good thing.
Motion by Mr. Purcell to approve the revisions to the 2020-21 school calendars, Camden County Schools and Camden Early College High School as presented this evening by Dr. Farrell.
Second.
Seconded by Ms. Idlet. Is there any further discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. All right. Thank you. Entertain a motion to recess open session to enter closed session.
So this might be a little weird. Can we do the future agenda items before we go into closed session this time?
Yes, we can.
Because I would like to request that we make a pledge or resolution for the voters of Camden. Somebody brought it to my attention. I'm embarrassed that I didn't catch this earlier. You know, the language on the ballot referendum reads, for expansion or renovation of school facilities. And the ballot is not about expansion of our existing facilities or renovations of our existing facilities. It is solely for a new high school, which is what the grant money is for. So I would like to be a clear message from us that we don't have any intentions of spending any of the bond referendum tax increase, that revenue, on any other projects except for the new high school.
It had to be worded that way.
It had to be-
legal,
it had to be
yeah,
a-
just to make sure everybody knows we're not, this is strictly for the new, I got you, yeah. Can we do that?
I see no issue with simply adopting a resolution, if that's your intent.
Yeah.
Putting that out there for everybody's knowledge.
So we would bring that to the October meeting. for approval.
October meeting, what, the 12th? Early voting starts, yeah, so you get out right before early voting, so they'd have that information before they vote. The meeting's on the 15th. That's the day early voting does start, well, one day. Well, they're hearing it now, that's our intent. But if you get the actual resolution out, we can do it on the 15th.
Somebody just told me they felt uneasy voting for that, giving that broad spectrum of, hey, you can use it to renovate middle school or whatever, but I mean, that, I think it's pretty common knowledge, that's what this bond referendum is for, but just to state that absolutely, that is what it's for, just to,
They had the same issue in past, I think, when they did that quarter-cent tax increase, it was strictly to buy Chromebooks or whatever, but they couldn't say that by law, and people were, I understand, makes sense. They want to make sure.
That's where the key is, it's the intention, and I think, as you say, Dr. Banks and everyone, for the most part, knows that, but it's just reinforcing it. I would recommend saying, absolutely, this is 100% what we're using it for, as we walk the line by there, but making it clear that it's the intention for the bond referendum funds to be used to build a new school, just reinforcing that.
I mean, that would be the only thing that's going to be used for.
True, but
it's just the way it reads.
Yeah.
Or say one thing.
Yeah.
Thanks,
Law.
Will. I know that with you.
We still love you, Will. We still love you, bud.
Yeah.
Like
Any other future agenda items?
Motion to go into close.
Dr. Banks made a motion that we recess open session and enter closed session, seconded by Mr. Purcell. All in favor, say aye. Opposed? Motion carries. We'll enter closed session for personnel consultant attorney.
Amber.
Thank y'all for coming.